G'day, my name is Mick Collins and I'm a Regional Services Manager with New South Wales Farmers. And I'd like to welcome you to the third of 6 webinars on rural crime. Rural crime is everyone's business, and the New South Wales Farmers Association and the New South Wales Police Rural Crime Prevention Team have worked together to bring you the 2020 Tackling Rural Crime webinar series. These informative and solutions-based sessions will help you prevent rural crime on your property and in your community. Being the largest state-based member farming organisation in Australia, we at New South Wales Farmers take rural crime very seriously. And with our friends from the New South Wales Police Rural Crime Prevention Team, we hope you find the webinars of value. Please do not hesitate to ask questions in the questions tab throughout the webinar, and we will try to answer as many questions from you, the participants, as we can. Together we can all make a difference. I would now like to welcome Senior Constable Wayne Jackson and Detective Chief Inspector Cameron Whiteside, who tonight will deliver the webinar on safe storage of firearms. Thank you, gentlemen.
Hello, I'm Senior Constable Wayne Jackson from the Firearms Registry. I work in the compliance unit and we deal with most things relating around firearms compliance, in particular safe storage. So I'm going to present to you on 5 different subjects here tonight. If we can go to the next slide. I'm going to talk about 5 different areas over the next 20 minutes or so in terms of what the Firearms Registry is and its responsibilities and how we operate here. Safe storage of responsibilities of all our licence holders. Inspections of firearms safes, what the requirements are by our firearms licence holders, and interacting with the police when we're doing those inspections. Also, I'm going to talk about the address of safe storage and how you change your address easily on our online system. But most I'm going to be talking about towards the end, the shooting activities of primary producers. So most of this presentation will be about the primary producers. So I'll get the next slide, please. Okay, the Firearms Registry's responsibilities for the administration of the Firearms Act and its regulations, the Weapons Prohibition Act and the regulations. It has the responsibilities of maintaining registers of all firearms licenses, permits, and the registration of firearms. Also including the safe storage administration attached to all those firearms license holders. The Firearms Act is unique in that it has principles and objectives clearly defined within the front of the Act. It's quite clear saying that the firearms are a privilege. It's on the conditional basis to ensure public safety, promoting safe and responsible storage and use of firearms. It is to have a national approach with all the other states, prohibit automatic and self-loading rifles and shotguns, except in special circumstances, and I'll talk about that more later when we talk about primary producing. Prove a genuine reason for possessing and using of firearms, and again, I'll emphasise genuine reason later on. And ensuring firearms are stored and conveyed in a safe manner. So the objectives are clearly defined on how we operate here. As I said before, genuine reasons. There are many genuine reasons within the Firearms Act for why people can have those, have a licence. A firearms licence is not like a driver's licence or any other licence. You must have a genuine reason. The focus of this presentation will be basically around the blue ones I've highlighted there: primary production, vertebrate pest control, business and employment, rural occupation, and animal welfare. And I'll explain a bit more further on with those. Section 12 of the Firearms Act, amongst many of the other reasons, stipulates for the rural or primary producer reasons of why you can have a firearms licence. Primary production is a person who's in the business of primary production, is the owner or leasee or manager of land associated with primary production. And the firearms are to be used solely in connection with those activities. So a primary producer's licence can't use firearms out for recreational hunting or target shooting, for example. Vertebrate pest control, the same thing above in producing or owner and leasing land. firearms are meant to be used in conjunction with vertebrate pest control. And plus, they could be participating in an authorised campaign with the government for brucellosis or tuberculosis campaigns. Rural occupation or employed in that area and engaged in rural occupation that requires firearms. And there's also animal welfare. Owners of livestock, transport drivers may need to destroy injured animals who are suffering. That is a genuine reason for a firearms license. We're just going to talk about safe storage of firearms now. And I'll just draw your attention to that the Firearms New South Wales Police Force, the Firearms Registry webpage, has all the information relating to safe storage of firearms. It can give guidance in fact sheets on how to safely store your firearms. Our internet page has many fact sheets breaking down the different types of safe storage for the individual user. Part 4 of the Firearms Act, for those who might be inclined to read the legislation, is all centralised around the safe storage of firearms. Uniquely, unlike a driver's licence or a boating licence, a firearms licence has many conditions built into it. And part of the conditions of those licences relates to the safe storage of a firearm. So there is plenty of legislation, plenty of material about how to have firearm or safely store your firearms. This is a screenshot of our intranet page here at the Firearms Registry. It's a long page, and this is just the top part of it. By simply going into Google and searching New South Wales Firearms Registry, this will be your first option, and you'll be able to select from a number of things. At the bottom of that same page, I'm going to draw your attention to the safe storage tabs. There's 2 of them there. They go to the same links. And this is where you'll go to find out all the information that you need to find what your requirements are for safe storage. By selecting that safe storage, you'll go over to this safe storage page. It clearly sets out at the top of the page that your responsibilities are yours and yours alone. And the precautionary you must take all reasonable precautions to ensure the firearm is safely kept, it is not lost or stolen, and does not come into the possession of another person who is not authorised to possess that firearm. Down the bottom there, I encourage you to go into this page to reduce your risk. It is a tool that's basically been designed about asking you a whole series of questions that you can put a response in, and it will score your response and give you tips and tricks of how to improve your safe storage. So that is a tool that I strongly encourage everybody to go in and have a look at. In that same page, the safe storage details, there's, as you can see, that page has got all levels of safe storage down for our firearms dealers, security firms. But I'm going to draw your attention to the top 2 items that I've highlighted there with the red arrows. The transportation and ammunition, we're going to touch on that a little bit later. But the firearms level 1 and 2, which will be the normal level of safe storage that all of you that would be have an ordinary license have to comply with this level 1 and level 2. So you would simply select from that page. And you'll bring you down into a whole series of fact sheets that look very similar to this here. This is the top of the Firearms Registry Safe Storage Level 1. So everybody with a Category A or B license, this will dictate and show you all those details that's required. And it's broken into sections that I'll touch on in a second. As you can see, it's got photos of what the safes should look like, the sort of things that they're made up of and the safety features around those safes. And at the bottom of the fact sheet, and every fact sheet is like this, there's interactive links. So if you're online, at the very bottom, the related information, you simply select one of those links and it can take you off into the next part of wherever it is that you want to search. The sections of the fact sheet, even though that every level may be somewhat different, but every fact sheet has a general requirements of legislation. There's safe storage requirements at each of those levels. The safe storage types, whether it's a safe, vault, or floor safe. Safe storage locking mechanisms on what's meant to be on the safes, how they are fixed to premises, and it talks about your obligations in terms of their inspections and what will be inspected. And as I said, there's other links at the bottoms of those forms. This slide basically is just a short, simple demonstration of the differences between level 1 and level 2 safe storage. Category AB license holders on the left-hand side will be required to have level 1 safe storage. You can see that these are not exclusively the only 4 points relating on that fact sheet. There are many others, but as an example, the safe weighs less than 150 kilos, it must be fixed. Conversely, over in the category C, D, and H, or level 2 on the right-hand side, all of those safes must be fixed to the ground. Level 1, 4 anchoring points, level 2, 4 anchoring points, and so on and so forth. It gives you a bit of a demonstration of how each of our levels, as they go from level 1, 2, and upwards, they escalate up in levels of security and what the requirements are. As I said before, unlike driver's license and boating licenses and things like that, a firearms license is unique in that it's got a whole series of conditions built into the license. So when you sign up for a firearms license, you are signing up to that you are going to abide by all the conditions of that particular license. Section 19 of the Firearms Act relates all these kind of conditions, plus special conditions can be added in by the Commissioner. But what I will draw your attention to, that it's one of the conditions is that you must make arrangements at any reasonable time for police to inspect your firearms safe. In the regs, it also goes, sorry, just go back to, yeah. In clause 37, it also says that you must make all reasonable efforts to accommodate those police. So the police will come out and make an arrangement for you to come out, and you've got to make all reasonable efforts to accommodate the police. The safe storage of address change. There's legislation clearly says that you must notify the Firearms Registry in writing within 7 days of a change of occurring. I'm going to go in a few moments and show you how to do that online. For those who can't get online, we still accept some written notifications through. Again, back on our website is the online services on the top left-hand corner. And down the bottom of that page, it says change of personal details. You simply select that. And you can go online and select the online change of personal details. And this is just an example of part of the process. This selection will allow you to change of name details, change of residential address, change of postal address, change of safe storage location, and change of contact details. And you just simply go through and submit all the information, and it gives you allowance to upload some documents if you have them, and you can send them to the registry in that fashion. Storage at other location. This is a question that I get asked quite regularly, less so these days, but in 2017, the change of the firearms regulations occurred, and there was the introduction of clause 38. Requirement of safe storage of firearms on residential premises. There was a lot of confusion around this, but as time's gone on, I think everybody's getting their head around it, and it's not so much a problem these days. The changes are this: the storage only of firearms are only at residential premises to be at the principal place of abode of a person. Now, before I read the rest, what that basically means is those who are storing your firearms at a residential premises, not those who are storing them at a firearms dealer or at a safe storage other location. It's only at residential premises. It has to be at the principal place of abode where you're residing. And that's it. And it's also not allowed to be in a building that is separate from the residential premises unless it is within close proximity and easily observed from the residential premises. That means that you can't store firearms in another house or another building or shed on the other side of your property. It's got to be within close proximity and easily observed from the residential premises.
Hi Wayne, if I can just interrupt and thank you everybody for participating in our webinar tonight. My name is Anne and I'm a part of the Rural Crime Prevention team. I'll be the person that'll be asking your questions to the gentleman. So I'd like to encourage anyone, if you have any questions that you would like me to ask at the end of the presentation, please go ahead. Wayne, I just wanted to ask you one question that's popped up in the chats, and that is, if I have a Category C license, but no Category C firearm and only an A and B, what level of storage do I require?
The simple way of looking at the level required is the firearms that you possess, not necessarily the license that you have. If you have a Category A, B firearms license and the firearms for those, but no C firearms, you're only required to have level 1. But the moment you acquire or have possession of a C, you are then required to go up. We have a lot of license holders that don't have the firearms that they are licensed for.
Thank you, Wayne. I appreciate that, and I'll let you go back to the presentation.
Okay. So the Firearms Registry safe storage webpage, and I won't go into too much detail in this, just to draw your attention to it, because there are some legislations around the different ways you are to transport firearms when you have them. So simply go onto our webpage again, select transport of firearms. And a fact sheet will come up and give you a full detailed reason of what your requirements are for the type of firearm that you're doing and what you're doing. But the basic principles of transportation in terms of firearms will always come back to that Part 4 of the Firearms Act, which is safekeeping of firearms, that you've got to do what is reasonable. But as I said, the basic principles are: convey all firearms unloaded, ammunition in a locked container separate, C, D and H category firearms must be temporarily incapable of being fired, and all firearms must not be visible from outside the vehicle. There is an exemption only during the course of conveyance that there is a likelihood that a firearm will be required to kill vermin or stock. And this exemption is only limited to those who are primary producers and their employees, or employed in the Department of Industry, Office of Environment and Heritage, or local land services, or border fence personnel. As we spoke about before, Category C, where it comes into primary producers. For those who don't know, Category C firearms is required to have level 2 safe storage, and that includes all self-loading rimfires with a mag capacity of no more than 10, self-loading shotguns with no more than mag capacity of 5, and the same with pump actions. And they are only allowed to be licensed while carrying out those duties of farming and grazing. So once those duties are finished, that license no longer continues. And you're only limited to 1 rimfire and 1 shotgun. But I'll make known that there is a special need. If special need can be proven, we may increase that on an individual basis. And you can only use those firearms on the land for primary producer, owned or occupied, or immediately adjoins that land. So if you're in a planned cull with other neighbours. And in summary, what we've spoken about is the safe storage of firearms. To check out our fact sheets, make sure that you are safely storing at the required level. Remember that your license itself is conditional, and it's part of your genuine reasons, and you must abide by the condition.
Folks, we may have lost Wayne there for a moment. We might just give him a moment to come back on, but I don't know if the Detective Chief Inspector Cameron, are you there? we might just, yeah, if Cameron, if you're in the room, it looks like we've lost all audio, actually. There's a fair gremlin in the room. So just bear with us, folks. I hope you can hear me. And we'll see if we can troubleshoot this one out. I don't know, Anne, can you hear me?
Yes, Dan, I can. Yep, well, we look like we're back up again.
Great. If it wasn't for gremlins, I don't know where we'd be. So we've lost Wayne at the moment, but while we're waiting for Wayne to come back in, is there any questions, Anne, that we could ask of the Detective Chief Inspector while we're here?
So Cameron, are you still able to hear us? Okay, are we able to hear anybody on the team there at all?
You've still got me, Anne, and I'm probably not much help in asking or answering firearms-related questions.
Well, here
we go.
Oh,
there
here
we go.
Have we got Wayne back as well?
Not just yet, but yes, we do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello.
Sorry about that. Well, I'll let Wayne finish up.
I'm not sure where I dropped out. Did I go through this last slide?
Can you start from the beginning of the last slide for the summary? That would be wonderful. Yeah,
so just in summary, the safe storage must comply with all the correct levels that you are licensed for and the firearms that you have. And I encourage everyone to look at our fact sheets online to ensure that you comply when the police do their inspections. Conditions of license, your firearms license are conditional that you abide by the rules or the conditions within your license. Change of address, we encourage you to do, you must do that within 7 days in writing, or penalties could apply, so you do that in writing or online. And you must make all reasonable efforts to accommodate police to inspect. Legislation provides them the ability to do that. Again, I encourage everyone to look at the transportation of firearms on our fact sheets. It is a common problem, and firearms are stolen usually from vehicles sometimes. And Category C firearms has an elevated safe storage level to level 2, and you need to be able to comply with that to achieve that license.
Okay, thank you very much, Wayne. I appreciate the presentation, and I would still like to, if anyone out there that's been listening has any questions that they'd like me to ask the gentleman, now's the time. If we can get Wayne and Cameron to turn their cameras on, and I can start to ask some of the questions that have come through.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Cameron. And it looks like we may have a slight technical issue with Wayne, but if you can just tell me if you're still there.
I'm here. My camera image is saying it's working, but I can see I'm not coming up on the screen. So.
Okay, well, we might start with some of the questions. So I have a question here that's come through the chat, and it's just saying, if I have 2 farms and I move out to work on the second one for a few days, do I need to notify the registry that the address has changed?
No, no, you do not. The only time you have to tell the Firearms Registry that you change of address, if it's a permanent change of your address. If you're going out to another farm and taking firearms with you, all the safe storage requirements maintain, and the address remains at your normal residential place of abode.
Lovely. Okay, we have one that's come through from Gavin, and thank you very much, Gavin, for listing your question. What is the requirements for ammo storage at home?
Ammunition's got to be locked away separately to all firearms, and it must be locked in a secure compartment that can't be easily accessible by non-licence holders. And again, that information's on our fact sheet for ammunition as well, and set out on that.
Okay, Gavin, I have another one here for you. Why is there such a difference between metropolitan and rural numbers?
The main reason that I think that from my observations, that rural crimes are somewhat softer targeting. Sometimes the number of firearms are actually larger than what metro areas are. People have been storing firearms at other locations on multiple farms and things like that, which have been broken into, or hunting shacks and so on, so forth. And that's why the regulations changed in 2017. But I think primarily that residential firearms on farms could be an easier target for for thieves.
Okay, thank you very much. And Wayne, I have another one here that has come through from Mark, and thank you, Mark, for submitting this question. Do I need to check my employees' firearms license status each time I give them my firearms?
The answer is yes. All legislation says that whenever you hand your firearms license, a firearm to another person, you must check their license. And the reason that you're checking that license is to see that they still have one, to make sure that it's valid, make sure that they have the right category of firearm that you're about to give them. For example, you don't want to be giving them a Cat C firearm if they're only licensed for an AB. And the case may be that the employees may have had a situation where they've had to have their license removed, whether it's a domestic situation or mental health issues. So unless you cite that license and look at it, you will not know whether or not they are currently licensed.
Thanks, Wayne. Now, Cameron, I've got one for you, and please feel free to join in as well, Wayne, but I'll start off with Cameron. I've got a question here from Roy, and Roy has asked, how do I protect my farm from firearm theft?
Yeah, it's quite a good question, and it's very difficult to say you can protect your farm 110%. There's plenty of things you can do, but it's also quite clear from Wayne's presentation there's a lot of information to consume in relation to firearms. But and also not all the legislation relates to people all license holders. So what I mean by that is that at the end of the day, it's quite clear in Part 4 of the Act that it's your responsibility, as Wayne said, in terms of safekeeping of firearms, to ensure that they're kept safe, not lost or stolen, and don't come into possession of a person who is not authorised to possess that firearm. So what do you do? And it's something we've touched on in previous presentations here, and it's a term that we use as target hardening. The best thing to do is self-assess, factor in information that you received from Wayne here tonight, but be objective and just have a look at your safe. It may comply with the legislation, but ask yourself, are you taking reasonable precautions to stop it from being stolen? And that's a good place to start in terms of tightening up your security. Little tips and tricks that you can do is make sure you obviously comply by I think it's clause 38 in respect to being on your primary residence or in line of sight in a shed. But the one thing we often see, and it astounds me to tell you the truth, that keys are left nearby a firearm safe for easy access for the owner of the firearm. But the reality is, if they're easy for you to find, they're also easy for offenders to find. And it doesn't take too much brains to work out that the keys are nearby. Another thing you can do is also make sure that you don't leave tools around that can be used to access your safe. Like we often find that they're broken into these safes by angle grinders that actually belong to the victim. And so it's just about more stepping outside your shed or if it's in line of sight of your premises or your premises, just ask yourself, how easy is it to steal the contents of that safe? And that's a good place to start. But you can go a step further because it's not just like a normal item that's being stolen from your farm. Signage, people say, well, signs aren't going to stop you from guns being stolen. But what it does show to the would-be thief is that you're serious about your security. I strongly recommend alarms, and where you can, back to base preferably, in CCTV, sensor lighting in and around sheds to not only to attract your attention if someone's near there, but also to startle the offender. The reality is, if you tighten up your security in and around your firearms, you're going to push the offender to the neighbour's place, and they're going to get that responsibility to do the same thing. So all in all, you've just got to increase the chance of being caught. But there's a wealth of information on the Firearms Registry website, as you saw, but also on the Rural Crime page of the New South Wales Police Force. There's plenty of information there. And Wayne alluded to the reduce your risk capability on the website, and it's on the New South Wales Police website also, in the Firearms Registry, is go through that process, and it leads you through, and it's quite simple, and you'd be surprised how little bits and pieces that won't cost you a lot of money can tighten up your security. So, but failing that, always contact your local police and get advice from them too.
Thank you, Cameron. Okay, Wayne, we're back to you now. We can see your pretty face back on the screen again. And we have a question here from Robert. Now, Robert's asking, in the 2017 regulations, does a person being present as a resident mean the license holder or a person? So can a license holder store firearms at an address of another license holder, e.g. family on a farm?
Yes, they can. In fact, that happens all the time where we have multiple people living at one address, licensed and unlicensed, as long as the premises is occupied. The whole idea around Clause 38 was to stop firearms being stored at locations that are not occupied and remote, and have them basically in, being easily observable. So yes, that's fine.
Okay, and we have our last question coming through tonight. Sorry, second last question to Wayne. We've got another question here. So where you have properties, so this is from Clyde. So Clyde's asking, when properties are often kilometres apart and the firearms may be stored on site, but the farm residence is elsewhere, must the firearms be stored on the at the primary residence?
The firearms should be stored at the primary place of abode of the person who owns those firearms. So if I understand the question correctly, so that an employee will live at another location and have access to those firearms. Is that what I'm hearing?
So Clyde, would you mind just clarifying, if you can, in your question, if you can just retype your question, has Wayne got it the right way? So I'll just repeat what he's written here. Where the storage of firearms, where the properties are often kilometres apart and the firearms may be stored on site, but the farm residence is elsewhere, must the firearms be stored on the primary residence, at the primary residence?
Okay,
So,
yeah, I understand that question. It must be at the primary residence, the residential address of the principal place of abode of the license holder.
Okay, thank you very much, Wayne. Clyde, I hope we've answered your question. And we've just got one last question is for Cameron. In regards to, if you can just clarify the various ways that people can actually report rural crime, just in general. It can be firearms, but rural crime in itself, what are the resources we have, and what are the various ways that people can actually report? And just saying to Wayne, Clyde has said, yep, thanks for that, you got it. So Cameron, can you actually just let us know, what are the various ways people can report rural crime?
Yeah, thanks, Anne. It is a good question, and something we generally overlook, not to address. And the reason being is it's very important. Is if the police don't know about it, we can't really help you. So there's many and varied ways you can do, but experience tells me the best way, and if you've got time, is to attend your local police station. But that isn't always the case in terms of times of emergency. To have that one-on-one with your local policeman, build up that relationship so you can share, where you live, how to get to your place if you're on a rural property, and build up that relationship so if something does happen, you can report that to that police officer. However, that's not always the case. So what we encourage people to do is call your local police station if you can over the phone. But in an emergency, and especially if firearms are involved or being stolen, and if someone's on your property or you've spooked someone, you can't replace AAA. AAA will get the information to the police in the shortest possible time. And who knows, there may be a traffic and highway patrol officer driving around the location, or another police officer who's not attached to that area, and they'll hear that call and come in. But there's also other ways you can report to us online on the community portal, which if you Google that in your search engine or put in your search engine, you can bring that up. There's a 131 444 for non-urgent matters, which is the police assistance line. But on top of that, we've also got the Crime Stoppers line of 1800 333 000. And that's very important, not so much for reporting crime, but if you've got suspicions about someone who, for any rural crime, and in the case of firearms, if don't sit back and hold that information in, call up. You can call up anonymously, and we encourage you to do so there and then at that time, because it may be the case that a firearm is used and used either intentionally or accidentally and cause harm to someone. Unfortunately, over the years, I've seen many incidents where things have gone horribly wrong, and someone may have had the opportunity to call police and didn't. So it's better off to make that call straight up in any of those varied ways. But I'd just like to come back to reporting it to your local police. And in terms of the Rural Crime Prevention Team, I encourage you to also look at our the Rural Crime Prevention Team Facebook page, like that, because we've got tips and tricks on how to report crime on there, target hardening, some of the investigations we need help with, some of the investigations that we have success with. But also, if you put into the search engine put in there New South Wales Police Rural Crime, and the same for the Firearms Registry, but for the rural crime, you'll bring up a huge amount of resources there for everything from target hardening, tips and tricks about diesel theft, firearms theft, but also there's a link there that will tell you exactly where the rural crime investigators are located throughout the state. And just to make it clear on that point, the rural crime investigator won't report all crime, so it's important you report it to your local police station, your local uniformed police station, who are well equipped to investigate the vast majority of rural crime. And the rural crime investigators, who are specialist detectives, will oversee that report, and at times, as much as often we can, we'll be involved in that investigation. So just build up the relationship. Don't wait until it's too late. Go get to know your local police officer, get to identify with what the rural crime investigators wear, just please call us at any time, because we're here to help you.
Thank you very much, Cameron, and thank you very much, Wayne. Thank you to the audience for participating in our webinar tonight. We have another webinar coming up on Thursday. That topic for this Thursday is rural trespass, and I would like to hand back to the New South Wales Farmers. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne and Cameron, for your presentation and valuable suggestions towards tackling rural crime. I'm sure tonight's participants have found the webinar very useful. We'll take away great ideas and suggestions that they can put into place. Lastly, thank you to you, the participants, for your support. And don't forget, as Anne said, the next webinar will take place on the 12th of November at 7 p.m, focusing on the topic of rural trespass. We hope that you will be able to join us in that webinar, and we wish you good night. Thank you very much.